Hi everyone and welcome to the Post Social podcast. My name's Umer Farooq and I'm a trainee sports journalist on the Post Social, and today I'm joined with Onyinye Nkemdirim, who is a London regional manager for Sportage UK. So how are you, Onyinye, today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good as well. Thanks for asking. But I'll just jump straight into it. So if you can introduce yourself and give us a background of yourself and what you do.
Perfect. So my name's Onyinye. I am the London Regional Manager for Sported. I've been in this role just shy of 2 years. A bit of background about myself is that I've my whole professional career has been in the sports sector. This role is new in terms of me moving into the community sector. Previously, I've worked in university sport across elite sport, player and athlete management, as well as community and outreach engagement. So includes recreational activity and physical activity across the board.
Okay. So how did you become can you tell us about your role in Sportage UK and how you became involved within the organization?
Yeah, sure. So my role at Sport UK as London Regional Manager is essentially to oversee all of the operational and delivery elements on the ground in London. So Sport UK, we are, as the name suggests, UK wide, including Northern Ireland. So we have regional teams based across the UK who have their patch to look after. Mine is London, as well as a central team to support background services and support for our organisations. How I became involved in the organisation is essentially sport has always been my background. It's been my passion. It's opened up a lot of doors for me and given me a lot of skills, confidence, and connections within sort of not only personal life but also professional sense. So what sport has given to me, I see, is incredibly important, and my aim is to ensure that all young people, no matter of their background, can have access to the benefits that sport provides to them.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. But I wanted to, what motivates, oh, so you pretty much answer this because I was going to ask you what motivated you to join Sportage UK. But can you give us an overview of Sportage UK's mission and the key objectives of the organizations
Sure,
of the
I'll
organization?
add sort of a bit to both, I guess. So obviously, I grew up in London. Obviously, a very big city with a wide range of diversity. So in terms of school where I grew up and background, I wouldn't necessarily I'll be part of that diverse communities sort of demographic. So having access to certain opportunities wasn't necessarily always available. So I think definitely something that motivated me was definitely the chance that I had people in my corner that allowed me to gain access to sport. So I always want to give back and provide that access to some people who wouldn't necessarily get it straightforward. So creating pathways to allow more people, no matter the background, to get that access. In terms of sort of sports overview, in terms of their mission and our objectives, our main focus is that we want every young person to have the same opportunity to fulfill their potential. All young people have a right to access, so we want to ensure that they can get that. And the way we look at doing that is by supporting those community groups that really deliver on the ground and deliver that impactful work on the ground. So our aim is to help those community groups survive so they can allow their young people to thrive. And ways we do that is, again, supporting those groups to be strong, be sustainable, be able to run and be secure. A lot of them are volunteer led. So funding, for example, might not be a huge amount for these organizations. So it's really about keeping those organizations sustainable, whether it's through upskilling or channeling funds through these groups that need it the most.
Yeah.
And especially reaching out to local partners, local connections in their local areas to create more opportunities and access.
Okay. Yeah, that's and with it being in London, it must be way more like busier because it's like London is the hub of England or UK.
Yes, definitely. London is definitely a big task. There are so many community groups here.
Yeah.
There are a lot of varying communities in and around London. So what we want to do is reach as many as possible, but also allowing these groups to embed within their own communities, because one size doesn't fit all. Different parts
Yeah.
of London work very different and different cultures, and we want to be able to allow groups to embrace their own culture and their own local community, as well as supporting them to thrive and be as successful as possible.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. But how does Sportage UK support grassroots sports groups, and what type of services do you offer to these organizations?
So our main focus with support is capacity building. So our aim is to ensure that the organization is healthy and sustainable. So organizational health is our primary focus. So in terms of that support, it's supporting the background. So ensuring that all of these organizations which are essentially mini businesses are
Okay.
stable and can run successfully. So those people on the ground don't have to necessarily be too troubled or worry too much about what's going on in the background, as well as delivering to these young people who really need that support. So in terms of that capacity building, we do for a number of ways. We look to upskill these leaders of these groups through training, webinars, and additional resources. We also provide mentorships through our volunteer consultants. So these are people who are professionals in other fields, whether it's law, financial backing, or impact, or fundraising. So these volunteer consultants provide one-on-one support with these groups to mentor them through any need that they have, and upskills and allows them to improve their knowledge and sustainably carry on their group.
So, in theory, like it helps them like run their sports groups, businesses to help them sustain it.
Exactly, is to get
Okay.
them to understand that they how do they run their group effectively
Okay.
behind the background, which makes that delivery portion a lot easier.
So like the business aspect of it, yeah,
Exactly.
completely makes sense. Yeah. Can you share some success stories or case studies that highlight the impact Sportage UK has had on communities?
Okay, that's good, because obviously there's a whole range of things
Yeah.
that we can pick from, and it's important to highlight that across our network we have organizations of varying sizes. We have organizations that are already charities that have a setup already in place and will just need help with little bits that they're looking to try out, or we have organizations that are quite small where it's just one or two volunteers who have just started up by seeing the need of their community and they need to start from complete scratch.
Mm.
But in terms of one organization that we have worked with in the past, so there's an organization called Estudiantes that's based up in Tottenham. So they are a football group. They became a member in about 2020 with us, which you probably would guess that it was a very trying and difficult period for
Yeah.
not only the whole UK, but specifically community organizations who want to
Yeah.
provide support for young people. So they mainly are a football group who provide sessions to young people across a wide range of ages, as well as young people with disabilities, and focusing on the team sport element. So within that group, reached out and became a member of ours, and we've helped them across a number of different elements, whether it's some webinars or training that they've attended, as well as they've gained access to funding through us. So we do give out funding, as well as working with partners for funding. So they've accessed small pots of funding from us, and they've been matched up with a long-term volunteer consultant for a couple of years now that has provided them with advice, insight, and support throughout a lot of elements of their process. So recently they've just been approved by a charity commission to become a charitable incorporated organization, which is something that they did initially have in mind when they first came to us in 2020. They were initially just a small football club, and they've reached out and worked with multiple different organizations and schools to deliver lots of other work within those schools, as well as their own participants. So obviously this is support that we try to help them get around and improve, but also a lot of the hard work and the kudos goes to the group leaders. We just offer the advice. It's the group leaders that really take it on and do the hard work. And as well as this group, they've had access to opportunities. So things that we've been able to get for them, for example, Premier League tickets for those young people to go to games, which is, as you probably know, with Premier League ticket prices, that may not be an opportunity for young people to always be able to access in London. So having that opportunity to be able to give that is a great thing. And also they've had some media coverage as well from ITV News looking at cost of living crisis and how it's affected community groups. So this sort of access and exposure for groups like this only improves their visibility as well as allows them to be more sustainable.
It's good seeing that, hearing that they went to a charitable organization whilst only like opening up, starting in 2020, and just to be hit by COVID straight after. So it's quite crazy seeing how they survived that period as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, what are some of the biggest challenges faced by grassroots sports groups today, and how does Sportage UK help address these challenges?
Obviously, there's many challenges in the wider charitable sector, but I think the very biggest one for community organisations is sustainable funding. So getting funding that lasts across multiple years, and whether it's through funding bids or corporate partners or sponsorships, these are really the things that are needed for a group to be able to deliver. Across our membership, what we do know within our London membership is that about a third of all our organisations run annually over £10,000 or less, which is not a lot of money if they want to deliver to hundreds of young people across a year. So sustainable funding and knowing where they can get that funding going forward is super important. As well as that, because of that sustainable funding element, what we find is a lot of our organisations are volunteer-led. So they will not have full-time staff. All of these volunteers are giving up their valuable time in addition to having a full-time job. So how do they keep volunteers? How do they recruit volunteers, especially now with costs rising and young people and even adults thinking about the balance between having the time to volunteer or maximizing earning potential. So getting volunteers on board and keeping them on board is a massive challenge for community organizations. In ways that we try to address this and support, like I previously said, we do provide some funding. We are not a large funder, but we do provide some funding through partnerships to organizations, and we also support groups who are looking to find funding through other organizations. So we provide newsletters and information on funding that's going on across the UK, localized all the way down to their borough level as well. So anything that is specific to their area that they might not know of, we keep an eye out and we communicate these opportunities with the organizations. As well as that, we work with larger funders as well, such as Sport England or London Marathon Foundation, to look at ways of how to make funding more equitable and allow funding to flow through to these groups that really need it on the ground, these groups that are making the big impact as well. And then we also work with corporate partners to provide opportunities, like I mentioned with the Premier League tickets, but also financial support to organizations.
Yeah, just to come back on the point that you said, in this day and age, especially during a cost of living crisis, volunteers must be really hard to come by. As once when like there wasn't a cost of living crisis, I feel like a lot of people had free time and they'd be willing to do stuff like volunteering. It seems like harder and harder as day goes by, especially after COVID again. I feel like that ruined quite a lot of it. But yeah.
No, most definitely. It's one of those things where people need to survive. People need to look after their families, and making the decision is not an easy decision for these volunteers to make if they need to stop volunteering, and it's the one that's right for them. But how do we support the volunteers as well as the young people?
Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us about some of the key programs or initiatives currently being run by Sportage UK?
Sure. So I think our biggest initiative at the moment is our Barclays Community Football Fund. So we are in year 2 of that fund. So this provides a range of different levels of grants. So not only small access grants, but larger, deeper impact grants, as well as different sort of opportunities and perks, so to speak, for groups. To date, we've given out about £2.8 million to a range of football-based organisations across the UK, which is a huge amount, and it's been massively appreciated by organisations, as well as given a range of opportunities to those young people to get a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, whether it's access to Premier League tickets, whether it's opportunities to become ball girls or ball boys, to games, as well as getting some training days, for example, to go and see teams train as well. So opportunities for young people to experience, as well as funding and additional training alongside that to support those groups receiving funding. As well, other initiatives that we currently have, we've run a series of funding programs called participatory grant making. So this is essentially trying to fund organizations and making sure they go to the right places. And the way we do that is by ensuring that the process and the decision making is peer reviewed. So it is the community, is those people that are affected by that funding that makes the decisions. So we basically see the power into the community's hands to decide how funding gets distributed. So we've tried a pilot for that in London, focusing on Black-led communities, and also a pilot in Manchester as well, also focusing on Black-led communities that focus on football. And we are just about to launch one in the West Midlands that are looking to support South Asian communities. So this is about making sure that funding is more equitable and the people who are affected by the funding can make those decisions going forward. And I'll mention one more project that we're also running. We're running a project in Wales, and this is focused around research around volunteers. As we know, volunteering has changed over the years. So we are researching and looking at how volunteers can be supported, upskilled, recruited, and retained, and how best to support that process across all of our groups. But we're currently running that research and support in Wales.
Okay, yeah. And I wanted to ask, what are some of Sported UK's future plans and goals for expanding its reach and impact?
I think the main one for us is that we are a network of just shy of 3,000 organisations, but we know there's approximately about 50,000 organisations across the UK that are community focused and deliver community sport. And a lot of these organisations need support, they need help, they need that assistance. So our main focus is about how do we reach those that need the most support. So we're looking at how we grow our support, grow our network, and also alongside it, grow the resource to be able to support those people. As a charity ourselves, we have to look for funding and allow for ourselves to be resourced to with those growth plans, but we are very much looking at how we grow our network and resource ourselves to do that effectively.
Okay, yeah. And this next question is more about you. I just wanted to ask, personally, what has been the most rewarding experience for you in your role at Sported UK?
You know what? I think it's the smaller things that I find really rewarding. I think it's not when having a conversation with a leader and me just being able to give a little bit of advice or tell them that, oh, I've had a conversation with a partner, or I know someone who may be able to help them. It's the fact that these leaders are grateful for the support they get. A lot of these leaders sometimes can feel alone. They can feel that they don't have the support. So to be met with the gratitude from some leaders that we're able to just be here to answer an email, jump on the phone, to hear them out, just to have a chat through things, and just to let them know we've got their backs to be able to deliver. I think that's probably the most rewarding thing in my sense, just to be able to chat to them and hear how something that might not seem massively impactful from a 20-minute chat is actually changed the whole way they look at something, and it has sparked something for them to try something new.
Okay, no, that makes complete sense. Like it inspires them in a sense to do something new on that.
Definitely, and to be fair, they're the inspirations. for me, a lot of them think now say it's just my job. I'm here to help. My aim is how can I help, and that's the focus. So anything that they do, we're just here to support.
Oh, okay, yeah. And finally, I just wanted to ask, is there anything else you'd like to share about Sport UK or the work that you do?
Oh, I think I've spoken a lot about sort of the work we do, but I think the only necessarily thing to share is the importance of these community organizations and the
Yeah,
fact that it's massively needed. Is like young times are getting harder and harder for young people with increasing, say, whether it's tuition fees or cost of living. So they may not get access to certain opportunities, and the reduction in budgets and funds for things like youth clubs and youth services. These are all things that are being taken away from young people.
yeah,
So anything these organizations are absolutely vital, ensuring that these young people have a well-rounded experience. So I definitely think the importance of these community groups, not only in sport, not only in sort of civil society, but in our general way of looking at the world and bringing up these young people is absolutely important. And that's why we exist, essentially, to make sure that these community organizations, that's absolutely important to young people's development, stay sustainable to be able to do that.
yeah. Thank you very much for joining us, Onyinye. It was a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you for answering all the questions I had for you. And yeah,
Thank you very much for having me.
all right, guys. See you next time at the Post Social Podcast.